In the matter of Mintier versus Mintier, step forward, please.
22-year-old Catherine Mintier is suing her mother-in-law, Melissa Mintier, for unpaid loans to buy a dress and to pay for a plane ticket to New York.
Miss Mintier, this is your mother-in-law.
Yes, that is correct.
And according to your complaint, you made a series of loans to her?
Yes.
She hasn't paid you back.
That is correct.
Your mother-in-law, she says, well, you're her daughter-in-law, so you're supposed to help her out. And then she said that you had her son arrested for domestic violence, so she's not paying you back any money.
Oh, okay.
She's wrong.
Right.
When did you have her son arrested?
I didn't have her son arrested.
Was he arrested?
He was arrested. I did not have him arrested.
Was there a domestic violence incident?
No. No domestic violence actually occurred, though that was the allegation.
Well, tell me why she thinks she would blame you for having him arrested.
Because anytime anything happens with her son, it's my fault.
Where's her son?
Son is right here.
That
This is
would
my
be
husband.
you?
Yes. He's a perfect angel in her eyes, so he couldn't do anything wrong.
He doesn't look like an angel.
He's my angel.
Maybe your angel, but he doesn't look like an angel. How many times have you been arrested? Stand up when you talk to me.
That would be my first time being arrested.
For what?
I was arrested for the domestic violence, but
Domestic violence on whom?
my wife, I guess.
Well, what happened, sir?
We got into an argument, and I don't know, some issues just came up, and I got a claim filed against me, and I ended up getting pulled over at McDonald's or something like that, and they pulled up a warrant that I actually had outstanding.
A warrant for what?
The domestic violence charge that I was given from Pataskala.
And you were quickly let go.
Yeah, I stayed one night in county and was released.
Are you living together now?
Yes.
Who do you work for?
I worked for her father as a chimney sweep. My previous job before that was at Circle K, but I actually quit that so I could stay home and take care of the children.
Whose children?
Her children, but yeah.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
1.5 and 6.
6-year-old is your child?
No, neither of them are mine.
I didn't ask you anything. Let's start with this premise, Mrs. Mintier. Parents don't borrow from children. Children take, parents give. Who do you work for?
I don't. I'm on disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
Mental.
How long have you been receiving disability?
About 10 years.
How many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
18 and 5.
Well, your mental disability didn't impair you from having another child. Do you take medication for your disability?
Yes, I do.
Were you taking medication when your 5-year-old was born?
Yes, I was.
Is your 5-year-old normal?
Yes, he is.
Where is his father?
At work right now, I would assume. He's in the picture.
Does he live with you?
No.
Does he pay support?
Yes, he does.
How much money did you take from your daughter-in-law?
Well, I don't really feel that I owe her anything.
I didn't ask you what you feel. I'm not interested in what you feel. People who work for disability care about what you feel, Miss Mintier. I do not. I asked you how much money you took from your daughter-in-law.
I didn't take anything. She gave it to me.
One gives and one takes. Do you understand?
She assisted me with my rent.
I didn't ask you that.
$500 for my rent.
Good. That's one of the things that you took from her. $500 for your rent. What else did you take from her?
She purchased me a dress for the wedding.
How much was that?
It was actually a number of things that we bought at the bridal store that we did settle on the amount of $200 that she would pay me back.
When did you settle on the amount at the bridal store?
When we'd made the purchase.
Is that what she spent on her dress?
It was actually over that. As I'm sure she'll tell you, my dog ate a pair of her shoes one time. So the bill was actually more than $200, but to compensate for that, we settled on the amount of $200.
What else did you give her?
The airfare. She wanted to travel to see a friend. So
What kind of friend?
One of her friends, I guess, from New York.
Male or female?
Oh, male.
Why did you go to New York to visit a friend?
To get away.
Where was your 5-year-old?
He was at home.
With whom?
With my son. Was watching him.
Son works.
At the time, he was not. That's one of the times he was living with me, back and forth between her house and mine.
How much was the airfare?
$263, I think.
So what you're telling me is your daughter-in-law, from whom your son was estranged, they weren't even living together, gave you money so that you could go and visit a boyfriend in New York? Is that what you're telling me? Just a second. I want to understand this. You said your son was estranged from his wife because he was living with you, so he was there to take care of your 5-year-old. And your daughter-in-law, from whom your son was estranged, I assume for good reason, according to you, gave you as a gift money so that you could go and have a good time in New York.
It was their fault I was stressed.
No, madam. It's your fault that you're stressed.
She took my son from me. I don't think I owe her anything.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she does have a mental disability. I'm not sure. Let me explain something to you, sir. How old are you?
18.
And how old are you?
22.
Your mother has a personality disorder. I don't know about a mental disability that prevents her from working. She can certainly travel to see a boyfriend. She can certainly make a baby and take care of a baby. So as far as mental disability is concerned, I think the only people who have a disability are the people who decided that she deserves disability. That's not what I'm here to make a decision about. You have to make a judgment. You got married?
Yes.
You plan on staying married?
Yes.
Good. First of all, this is a court. It's not a basketball court. So when you come to court, you look like an adult. You don't dress like a baby. Do you understand?
Yes.
You're dressing like a baby to come to court.
I apologize.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to wear in your wardrobe?
Yes, I do.
Well, then you should have worn it. You owe your daughter-in-law $963. Pay it!
Now, it's case number 336 on the calendar in the matter of Keenis versus Jaworski.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Miss Keenis, this is your daughter.
Yes, it is.
Does she have any siblings?
Yes, she does.
How many?
2, a brother and a sister. She's the oldest.
Is she a cute baby?
Gorgeous.
Is she a nice baby?
Yeah, very well mannered.
Must have been, because you had 2 more.
Yeah.
Well, you're not getting along so much anymore, and it is your claim that your daughter owes you the balance of 2 loans. One loan that you made to her several years ago in order to permit her to open up a business. That loan was for $10,000, and she's paid back a substantial part of that loan.
That's correct.
Over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. You were opening a beauty salon, and you were able to do that through the loan from your mom.
Exactly.
The second loan was for $2,000, and that was more recently, and that was to permit her to get an attorney because she was going through a divorce.
Correct.
With regard to that $2,000, your daughter says there was never any discussion of a loan, that you were ecstatic that she was divorcing the husband, and you agreed to help her secure an attorney so that she could
That's not true, Your Honor.
So that she could successfully conclude the divorce process. So let's deal with the first loan. When was that, Ms. Jaworski?
It would have been in August because I bought the business. I took possession
August
of
of what year?
03.
And it was for $10,000?
Yes.
Was there supposed to be interest paid on the loan?
No.
Well, tell me how you were going to make this loan with no interest.
I knew that she had money left over from my grandmother's estate.
Put your hand down. What do you mean left over?
Well, my grandmother didn't take care of things how you're supposed to, and so all of the money that was left out of her estate went to the state for her care. But there was somehow this money left over that the state didn't know
much
about.
Money?
I knew of $10,000.
Okay, go ahead.
And so I asked my mom if I could borrow that $10,000 from her because I knew it was in the bank sitting there, and so that there wouldn't be interest or anything on it because we already had the money.
Well, there would be interest on it. If she loaned you $10,000, then she's losing the interest on $10,000 for as long as it takes you to pay her back.
There was never any discussion of it.
But you do understand that.
I understand what you're saying, but in my mind, it wasn't that way.
I don't care
It
what was
just
in your
sitting
mind.
there.
What I'm telling you is, if your mother takes the money out of the bank, then she's losing interest on it, so there is a loss. I also don't understand why she should make this loan to you without interest when you have a brother and a sister. Why would she just let you have it all yourself?
Because it was just going to be a loan. It was going to be paid back.
In what period of time?
There was no set period of time because when you open a business, you never know. Most businesses fail in the first 5 years. And
Well,
so,
what happens if your business failed? You mean you weren't going to pay her back the money?
Well, no, I never intended not to pay her back the money.
But you just said most businesses fail within the first few years. What happens if your business failed?
Well, if my business failed, I would still have to pay her, but it was just to help me out. It was my mom helping me out. It was family helping family out.
But she didn't take that money out of the bank.
At the last minute, she had decided that she was going to pull it off of a credit card because she was nervous about the state finding out that she still had that money.
You mean she didn't think that they would find out about it if she kept it in the bank? Go ahead. Keep
no.
going. Keep going. I'm listening to the story. So she wanted to take it off of her credit card rather than take it out of the bank because she was afraid that the state would find out.
Well, she was worried that
Go
they
ahead.
would find out and then she wouldn't have the money sitting there.
Keep going.
No, that's really what happened.
Keep going.
And so at the last minute, she decided to pull it off of her credit card because it was 0 interest. And either way, it wouldn't matter. There was
Zero
no
interest for how long? Forever?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? You're in business. You don't have 0 interest forever, maybe for a year or two. but not forever.
I never saw any of the credit card information. I have no idea, to tell you the truth.
Well, let's understand this. You knew at the time that you accepted this loan that it was coming off of a credit card. Is that right, Ms. Jaworski?
At the last minute, yes.
I don't care if it's the last minute or the last second. You always could say no.
I know, but I'd already given
Listen to me. You always could say no.
Mm-hmm. And then if I had...
Who cares what happens if you had? If you had to go to work in somebody else's beauty parlor. Now, there was zero interest. And as a business person, you know that zero interest isn't forever. It's for a fixed period of time. Which was for how long?
2 years.
That brings us up to 2005. As of August 2005, how much money did you give her?
I haven't split it out. These are just the statements that I have until then.
Well,
I didn't add that up.
I don't do that. Math wasn't my strong suit.
Me either.
You either? Then you shouldn't be in business. But if you didn't pay her back in the 2-year period of time when there was zero interest on the credit card, you owe her whatever the interest is. End of discussion. Now, how much is on the credit card? Not with the $2,000 for the lawyer. I'm not dealing with that yet.
Well, it was all on one credit card, and the balance due on it when she stopped making the payment was $4,995.
Show me.
Ma'am, before you roll, can I say something else?
Well, this is not the last one. That's after I've made a payment, but
Can I see that bird, please?
I've made like the last 6 or 7 payments on it.
Now you wanted to say something, Ms. Jaworski?
I do, because the interest situation. She had said when we put it on that credit card that if the interest came due, that she would either take the money out of the estate and put it back on there. So I would never, the agreement was never any interest. It really wasn't.
Listen to me. You knew at the time she was taking out an interest-free loan for 2 years in order to cover this loan that she was making for you. You had 2 years to pay her back. You didn't. Then interest develops, and whether she takes the money out of the bank and loses interest, you still have to pay. Now tell me about the $2,000 for the lawyer.
When we were going through the divorce, or when Chris...
When was that?
That would have been in 2000, I believe, 5.
Now, by 2005, we were starting to get some interest on this loan.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay, well, so then we're going through our divorce, and I didn't have the money to retain a lawyer. At first, we were just going to do it ourselves. And I was telling her that he was going to try to get custody of the children from me, and that I needed to retain a lawyer. And what I don't understand is she hated...
Just don't tell me anything other than what happened. Not what you don't understand, not what you do understand. Not interested in what you understood. Tell me what happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's seeing my ex-husband.
That's not true. I'm seeing my grandchildren.
She's been seeing her grandchildren at your ex-husband's house, which ticked you off.
And later today,
Where's her cat?
That cat ran around outside. She lost that cat the first 2 weeks she was there. She couldn't find it. I don't have no cat.
The cat was still there.
Melissa Kina says her daughter, Jamie Jaworski, owes for 2 unpaid loans. Jamie says her mother is conspiring with her ex-husband to ruin her life.
Now, you were crying to your mother that your ex-husband was going to try to get custody of the children, and you couldn't afford a lawyer. You didn't have any money.
Basically. And she
Right.
said not to worry
And?
about it, that she would take care of it. And she sent me 2 checks
From where?
from her credit card.
And?
And she wasn't worried about me paying her back. I didn't know how I was going to end up financially after the divorce.
How did you end up financially after the divorce?
I ended up giving him basically everything. I got $20,000 equity out of the house, of which I gave her a check for $4,000.
You did give her a big check. So if you got $20,000 from the sale of the house, why didn't you pay her back everything that you owed her?
Because I was buying another house, and I was trying to have a little nest egg in case when you're employed by yourself, it's always good to have a little money back up.
Well, but if the only nest egg your mother had was the $10,000 she had of your grandmother's money, why should you have a nest egg and not her?
I don't know, I've really thought about it that way.
But isn't that a nice way to think about it, Ms. Jaworski? I mean, how old are you?
I'm 37.
And how old is your mother?
My mom must be 57.
Yesterday.
57. So if somebody has to sort of struggle to put together a nest egg, isn't it easier for you, who's starting a new business, to put together a nest egg than your mother, who's 57? Especially since you spent the money. So it's real nice of you to want to have a nest egg all by yourself. But if what you're suggesting is that your mother said, well, if you don't pay the note back in the 2 years, that it's interest-free, you'll take the money out of your nest egg.
No, that wasn't the way it is. I think.
Well, that's what you just told me.
But
I'm just following what you told me.
I think you're misinterpreting it.
No, that's what you told me.
No, it's not.
Does that sound what you just told me?
Sounds like what she told you.
That she would take the money out of her nest egg and pay off the credit card and wait for you to finish putting your nest egg together so you would pay her. Duh.
If you have a business and you don't have operating capital and you don't have money to buy and bring things in and out, you can't run a business. And so that's what I used the other part of that money for. Was
That's not what you just told me.
It is. I had it.
No,
in a
that's
little,
not what you just told me.
I had it set aside so if something happened with the business that I could keep it going.
That's your nest egg.
Well, I had to because if
You owe
I
your
lose-
mother
if I-
$4,000.
If I lose the
You
shop,
owe your mother $4,000. And I gather that the reason she's here is because you stopped paying her, according to your mother, because you had an estranged relationship for a while. Why, I don't know.
because she's seeing my ex-husband.
Well, that's what you say. That's what you say.
That's not true. I'm seeing my grandchildren.
That's
and her
what you say.
husband.
I think that makes it very convenient for you, Ms. Jaworski,
I think-
because she wasn't seeing her grandchildren, and she wrote a letter, according to her,
Correct.
to her grandson when he was at his father's house, and his father called her and said, if you want to see the boys, you can see them, and she's been seeing them at your ex-husband's house, which ticked you off. So you stopped paying the loan. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000.
Thank you very
That's all.
much.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
There will not ever be a relationship.
I was done when she stopped making the payments.
It's not about the money. It's about the things that she's done.
It's just the way she is. She's very self-centered.
The fact that she's seeing my ex-husband.
She's whacked in the head. He's got a girlfriend.
I just think it's odd that he would go spend a week with her when they've had no relationship and they hated each other.
This is the second or third time she's gone around and slandered me, and I'm done with it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Highmark versus Rigsby. Step forward, please.
25-year-old Anna Highmark is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eddie Rigsby Jr., for the return of her belongings. Anna says Eddie threw her out of their apartment and then disposed of her property.
Ms. Highmark, what was your relationship with the defendant when you moved in with him?
We were friends. At that point, there was no other involvement.
According to what I'm reading between the lines, you moved in with him and relocated from one jurisdiction to another.
Correct.
And you traveled with a child.
Correct.
How old is your child?
She's 6.
Where had you been living?
In South Dakota, in Madison.
And where did you move to, sir?
Quad Cities, Illinois.
Who did you know in Illinois?
I knew nobody, but my apartment had flooded, and I had to move either way, and I disliked South Dakota tremendously, and
Who lives in South Dakota?
all of my family.
So you were going to Illinois with a 6-year-old child, with someone with whom you were no longer romantically involved, just a friend, leaving your entire family and support system there. Did you have a job?
Within a week of moving to Illinois.
You found the job?
Yes.
What were you doing?
Working at the Army base.
Are you still there?
No, that was a temporary job. I've worked a series of temporary jobs since then.
Are you still in Illinois?
I'm in Iowa, across the border.
Who are you living with?
A friend.
Male friend or female friend?
Male.
When did you meet him?
When I moved to Illinois, about 3 weeks after.
And your daughter? Where's her father?
Her father is in South Dakota still.
Who's this?
This is my daughter's grandmother.
Her father's mother.
Yes.
Is your claim that when you moved with Mr. Rigsby to Illinois, you moved into his apartment, and that at some point he threw you out of the apartment and discarded your property?
My claim is that we got an apartment together where I was going to stay for about 2 months.
Was there a lease on the apartment?
In his name.
So then you didn't get an apartment together. He got an apartment.
With my money as well.
So what happened?
The day we arrived in Illinois, he began threatening me, saying he was going to have random women come over and beat me up, and when I was at work, he was going to throw my things out on the street, and a variety of things like that. And he got into my jewelry box a number of times, and 3 days in a row, I called and politely asked him not to dig in my jewelry box anymore.
Where did you call him?
On his cell phone, which I had gotten for him.
Why didn't you have this discussion when he came home? Was he not staying at home?
No, he wasn't.
When did he stop staying in his apartment?
The day he got it.
Why?
Because we didn't get along.
Where was he living?
Random women's apartments.
Who paid the rent?
It was split 50-50. There was 2 months free rent. There was a $450 deposit. I put down $200 on the deposit, and he put down $250.
So the first 2 months that you were there was no rent?
I was only there for 26 days.
So what you're telling me is you paid $200 to live there for 26 days?
Correct.
Okay. When did you come home and take her stuff and put it out at the curb, sir?
She was there for about a month. It was 2 days before the month was up. I put it on the curb. It wasn't on the curb. It was in front of the door. And this was like, I put most of it out there.
You told me curb. You wrote curb,
I meant,
sir.
well, door, I meant.
Well, tell me the circumstances of surrounding
After,
you doing
let's see,
that.
I put all the little stuff out first. Hope she'd come back because I didn't want to put the TV. She had a little 1980s TV and a bamboo chair, and I didn't want to put it out there because I didn't want to steal it. A month and a half goes by, she still hasn't been there.
Are you telling me that she left the apartment?
She called the cops on me. After the month was up, I told her she'd stay there 1 month. I said, you have to get your own place. My landlord didn't even want her there. She hit my garage. She almost hit my landlord driving around.
A month is gone. And what happened?
I told her she had to go.
So did she leave?
Yeah, she called the cops on me.
She called the cops on you?
He said I was an intruder in my own home.
Okay. After the police arrived, what happened, Miss Highmark?
They said that there was no reason to arrest him.
There wasn't.
Besides his threatening me and bringing over people saying they were going to beat me up and
Miss
taking
Highmark,
things
get
that-
over it. I don't believe you, period. Keep going. So you
And
called
so
the police,
I called
and
the
the police
police.
said the lease to the apartment is in his name. They're not going to put him out. And what did you do?
I said I need a safe place to go. And they put me in a domestic violence shelter.
Perfect. So you left that night.
Yes.
When did you come back for your things?
Every day for the next month and a half.
Tell me how you went back.
I went back looking for his vehicle. His vehicle was not there. He was not there. So I left the note on his door saying I would be there the following Sunday at 2 p.m. I showed up and he was not there. So I went over there consistently every day looking for his vehicle until finally one day I did find his vehicle there and called the police and had them knock on the door and ask if I could retrieve my belongings. And he said he no longer had them, although they were visible behind him.
What was visible behind him? A pot, you said.
There's crock pot, knife blocks, and dishes.
You mean you saw that from the door where you were standing?
What was in the kitchen I could see, because it was the kitchen door.
Okay.
This is the list right here of items.
Let me take a look at it.
That
You didn't
cat-
take your cat?
I was going to a domestic violence shelter. I was not able to.
Did you see her cat?
No. That cat ran around outside all the time, and that cat was never around. She lost that cat the first 2 weeks she was there. She couldn't find it. I don't have no cat, and if I...
The cat was still there. The next day when I returned, the only belongings that he had put out on the curb were the empty litter box with the scoop and the cat food and a folder of papers.
So if I got a cat just running around doing this thing all
that's
over my
ridiculous.
house.
All of this stuff is maybe worth $1,000. Maybe, if I believe it's all there. $5,000 never happened. Discard her stuff. You can't put it out. Do you understand?
See, this is the thing. She knew I worked during the day. She knew when to come and get her stuff. I work anywhere from 8 to 12 hours a day. She knows, come at night.
Listen to me. You go to a local police precinct and you say, listen, this is what I have. I have all this junk, because all this is
Junk.
junk.
Yeah.
But it's her junk. It's not your junk. So you don't have the right to throw out her junk. You understand that?
I understand that.
It's annoying. She was annoying. I get it. But you have no right to dump her stuff. You have to preserve it for a reasonable period of time, considering the fact that she was removed from the house with her child, limited window of time. So you have to take reasonable care, especially since she did pay $200 towards the rent, right?
Yeah.
None of this stuff is worth, according to you, $6,574. Not on a great day is this.
I don't know what she's got up there,
$6,000.
but what she left was a 1980s TV,
Yeah.
a piece of junk bamboo chair, some CDs, and a
200 CDs.
crock pot.
What'd you do with her CDs?
All this stuff was gone. I don't even listen to the CDs. Not even the type of music I listen to.
Fine. Charge them for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all. Step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Benavente versus Lanza, step forward, please.
21-year-old Monique Benavente is suing the father of her child, 24-year-old Carlos Lanza, for 2 truck payments. Carlos says Monique offered to help him out.
How old are you, Miss Benavente?
21.
How old are you, Mr. Lanza?
24.
2 of you have a child together.
Correct.
How old is that child?
5 months, 2 weeks.
Is that your only child?
Yes, ma'am.
What about you, Mr. Lanza?
Yes.
Your only child?
Excuse me.
What?
He told me he had another son.
You have another child?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever tell you had another child?
I did.
Why?
I thought I had a child with the girl that pregnancy test never came back and said it was mine. So it wasn't, sitting on a toilet or something like that. It wasn't irrelevant.
That's not what he told me.
This is all getting too unseemly for me. Mr. Lanza, you're 24 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
You've had maybe 1, possibly 2 out-of-wedlock children. That's enough.
He also told me that he was 27.
Well, he gets confused. In any event, You should have been smart enough to use some birth control so that we wouldn't be here involved. And who is this lady?
My mother.
How many children in your family?
There's 4 altogether.
Are you the oldest, the youngest, or in the middle?
In the middle.
All the other children live home?
No, ma'am.
You think your mother signed on to take care of a new baby?
No.
Do you live at home?
Yes, ma'am.
Look at it this way. It might keep you young. Then again, it might not.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You were pregnant, and you only had one car at the time.
No, that's not true.
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, fine.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Monique Benavente says the father of her child, Carlos Lanza, owes for 2 truck payments she made on his behalf.
Now, in addition to making a mistake of having a child with him, you gave him 2 truck payments because he was behind in his truck payments. A truck that is in his mother's name. In your mother's name?
Yes, ma'am.
You're very polite. Did you ask her so politely when you needed the truck payments?
I got behind. The work was slow, and she was getting a check from a settlement from a car accident she was in a couple years ago, and it was our only vehicle that we had at the time. And
That's not true.
I was driving her everywhere, from San Jose to Modesto to her doctor appointments, shopping, all that stuff.
Where were you living?
Behind. Excuse me?
Where were you living?
San Jose.
With her?
Yes.
Just the 2 of you?
No, we were in cousin's house.
Whose cousin?
My cousin.
And?
And after that, we moved in with my dad because I was working with him, general contractor. And, work was too slow. And she offered to help me pay the truck payments. That way we wouldn't lose the only vehicle that we had. She wasn't working at the time because her back and being pregnant, she couldn't be at a salon for 8-10 hours,
That's not true.
Don't interrupt him again. How long did you live together where you supported her?
Maybe 9 months.
How long did you live together when you were not working, Miss Benavente?
Around 9 months, off and on.
And he was supporting you?
No, ma'am. I worked, I did hair, and I paid some of our bills. I paid for a lot of our food, and I did support him in finding a job, paying his gas money that he would use for other things that I found out later.
And what did he pay for?
He paid for some of what I just said. He paid for some of the food, some of the Macy's
What
bills.
did you pay for, Mr. Lanza?
Actually, I got her the phone. It was a T-Mobile phone. I was paying the monthly payments. I bought her food, I bought her clothes, I bought her shoes. Anything she needed, I got it. When I was working in a contract, I would actually leave work.
Doesn't anybody pay rent?
Yeah, I was paying rent, of course.
Where were you paying the rent?
I was paying my cousin $500 a month.
Is that right?
No, we got kicked out of his cousins because he wasn't paying rent.
I did pay. The whole situation was that we were there for almost 4 months. On the 3rd month, I spoke to my cousin, look, man, my work has slowed down. I could give you $250 now and then $250 towards the end of the month. He said, well, you know what? I'm behind too. I just lost my job, so you're going to have to do something. I said, well, I don't want to owe you money. So I told him, you know what? We could just leave. I'll just go and...
I got it. Now, Ms. Benavente, why don't you tell me how it came about that you made these 2 truck payments? You were pregnant.
I was pregnant.
And you only had one car at the time.
No, that's not true.
Oh, yes, it is.
Okay, fine.
And you had one car at the time. And he was driving you to and from your medical appointments?
Sometimes.
Listen, unless you're stuck in his cousin's house or in his father's house, then wherever you had to go, somebody was taking you.
I was stuck there. My mom would pick me up. He would drop me off at my mom's house, and she would take me to my appointments, and sometimes he would meet us
So he would drop you off at your mother's house. I mean, first you lied to me and said to me that you had 2 cars. Now you're telling me that he would drop you off at your mother's house so she could take you to the appointments. Let me hear about the 2 truck payments, Miss Benavente.
Okay, so he couldn't hold a job, and he asked me to borrow them. He agreed to pay me back, and I believed him.
No. Tell me what he said to you. Where were you? Where was he? Tell me about it.
We were at his dad's house, and he asked me, he said, look, I can't work unless I have a car. It's going to get repossessed. My mom's credit's going to get ruined. Can you please help me out? And he said, I promise I will pay you back when I get a job. When he got a job, he never paid me back.
Did you tell her you would pay her back?
No, ma'am. The whole thing about us living together means, I would think when you...
No, don't tell me what you think.
Anyways.
Tell me what was said.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Go ahead. Well, I told her, I need these truck payments because I'm not going to lose the only vehicle. So she said, fine. We made the payments and everything was fine.
In what month did you make the payments?
It was either late December, early January.
And when did the two of you separate?
June.
In June?
Yes, ma'am.
Between January and June, did he pay for the truck?
He didn't pay me anything.
And you lived together?
Yes.
And it was after you separated that you sued him, is that right?